We are live with the University of Massachusetts Zoo Disc players Wyatt Kelman and Jonah Stang Osborne, who just helped UMass win 15-10 over Cal Poly Slow Core to reach the final. Wyatt and Jonah, you were both playing a lot of D-line points. You had two massive break runs, one to begin the first half and one late in the second half. What goes into those cascades of breaks for Zoo Disc?
We have coaches that are incredibly effective at keeping our energy super high. So at the end of that game, Rusty was just yelling and yelling and yelling and getting us so fired up. And when we could have let we could have let off the gas, but Rusty wouldn't let us do it, and we just kept going and going and going, and we just stayed hungry. That was really all it was.
I think we also had a nice variety of looks that we threw against them, and when we felt like we needed to go put a break run on, we went person, and they seemed to get a little bit anxious with that and huck a lot, and we got a lot of turns on their deep looks. And I think the variation of our zones and junks versus just the strict person worked really well.
I also believe one of the strengths of this team is our depth. We can run out line after line after line of super athletic, super skilled throwers who are just going to do the right thing. And because of that, we don't really get tired. We can just keep going and going and going. And when other teams slow down, we just keep going at the same pace.
Speaking of depth, I talked to your coach, Dylan Tennell, a few minutes ago, and he confirmed what I had thought, which was that in both the Texas game and in the Cal Poly Slow game, you played every player on your roster. What does it mean to get to run your full line out there like that?
Honestly, it's incredible. As a D-line player who has to go out and run, I got to rest so much this game and in the Texas game, and it's just a stark difference from every other team I've played on, where I have to play every point and I get tired and I get exhausted, and also every player on our roster is making plays. Every player on our roster was playing good defense, was scoring goals, was getting Ds, and so it just alleviates the any type of mental burden you feel of having to carry. There's none of that because we know that everyone on this team will execute.
This may sound a little cliched, but the priority of this team truly is to have fun. We're playing the sport to have fun. We're at this tournament to have fun. And it's not fun when you don't play. So we want everyone on this team to have as much fun as possible, and so we want to get them an opportunity to play on the field.
Speaking of fun, one of the things that's fun is shooting deep. You two are two of the huckers on this team. I know Luca gets deep shots when you're connecting like you were tonight.
Real quick, I got to shout out my boy Luca Harwood, a.k.a. Pookles. That was incredible. I think he threw 5 or 6 hucks that were just perfect. I've never seen that before. Really, we're just looking to huck and flow. If we catch a disc, turn around, see someone going, we're probably going to put it. If we have to stop and wait a second, we're probably not. And that's really all it comes down to, at least for me.
I huck stand still a lot, but you're definitely doing the better thing. I honestly look for just any separation because we have almost everyone who cuts deep is either faster or better than the air than the other people, at least I think. That last huck that I threw, that Brian Dole track down, that was a bad huck. That was a blady thing out to space, and I just trusted that he was going to be faster and read it better. And he did. So that's what I look for, just any amount of separation, then trust.
What a catch. What a catch.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the difference between the two games that you played today. 2 games, 2 wins, but you got there in very different fashions. Let's start with, can you describe, what was the energy like at the beginning of your preparation for the Texas game, and how did that compare to your preparation and getting into the semifinal?
So I think there was a little bit of a sense of nervousness going into that Texas game. It was felt throughout the team, and it showed when they broke twice in a row to start the game. I think the moment got to us a little bit. We were able to rein that in, but that game was plagued by very uncharacteristic errors. Don't get me wrong, Texas played great, but we had just a lot of just drops. Or we just threw a lot of bad hucks that we don't like to shoot. And I think the moment got to us for a little bit, but then in this game, after we proved that we could grind through that honestly really sloppy game, I think we just like felt the moment and embraced it.
As we talked about before, and as you all have written about before, one of the key aspects of our team identity is silliness. I could certainly sense during the warm-ups of the Texas game that we were being very serious. We weren't being goofy, we weren't being silly, and we could sense that tension, and that definitely manifested to the way we played. We were very stiff and tight. Whereas this one, it was very loose during warm-ups. We're fortunate enough to practice in a stadium every week.
Yep.
So to us, we were just going to practice, and we were being silly, and we were being goofy, and we played a lot looser because of it.
Other than being comfortable in the environs of a stadium, what do you think led to the difference in your approach to those two games? Was there something about your experience of that first game that you took as you prepared to play the semifinal, or do you think it was just sort of one game you came out kind of cold and one game you came out hot?
I think we proved to ourselves that we could overcome any challenge. I mean, we were down like, what, 3 breaks?
We were down 13-11.
Like, we were down 13-11, and like O-line had just gotten broken twice in a row. We put out a D-line on O. We turned it, but we still converted, and we proved that we like were able to grind through anything. And Texas played really, really well, and they were hitting their hammers and their hucks and flow, but we were able to stop them eventually. So I think like that plus, I'm not really sure, honestly.
It's hard to really put a finger on anything. I mean, if I recall correctly, the Texas game started with a missed huck and then a drop.
Yep.
Sometimes that just happens, and it's not a reflection of anything about your team or your energy or what you're doing. Sometimes mistakes just happen, and it can create this sense of tension or this sense of sloppiness that may or may not actually be there. Fortunately, in this game, we didn't have those mistakes in the beginning, and we got up to a big lead, and we were able to kind of feel comfortable doing what we wanted to do.
So, this semifinal here, y'all did get out to that early lead. It got tight towards the middle of the game, though, before you closed it out. Can you talk about, how you sort of weathered that storm and were able to reach another gear to finish this one out?
It's a little difficult when there's a scoreboard there and the announcer is saying things, but we really take pride in not knowing what the score is. At regionals, we had some of our fans holding up a flag in front of the scoreboard so that we wouldn't be able to see it. And so we really try to zone that out and just treat every point the exact same way. And so yes, the score got tight, but that didn't change anything about the way we were playing.
Yeah, I disagree with what he said. I didn't really pay attention at all to the score. I didn't realize it had gotten tight. Cool. I wasn't actually certain. I just know, we finished it out. So, yeah.
Awesome. Jonah, this next question is just for you. Where'd you learn how to pull?
Over quarantine, for like a month or two, all I did was just flick huck by myself at a field, and I kind of figured it out. Also, our coach Dylan has been giving me a lot of tips on my pulls, and he's a great thrower, as I'm sure you know. And so I've been able to really dial in my angles. Also, he's a big proponent of gloves, which is why I'm wearing gloves, and I think that adds like 15 yards on my pulse.
Last question here before we wrap up. Looking ahead to tomorrow, you're in the final against University of North Carolina. Not only is there a national championship on the line, but you got them at Smoky Mountain. They got you back at Easterns. This one's for bragging rights. What's on your mind?
We're going to play our game. The coaches will do some scouting. They'll set matchups for us, tell us how to deal with it, and that's it. We don't care that it's UNC. We're just excited to play another game and extend our season.
Yeah, I'm just really happy to play another game. Just like we've really made the most of our season, and we got to play all the games we could, and I'm just excited to go out on this field again and play.
Well, thank you again, Wyatt Kelman, Jonas Stang Osborne. Thanks for your time, and congratulations again on the win today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
We're here with Seamus Robinson, the captain of Cal Poly SLO, who just lost their semifinal to UMass Zudisk. Seamus, want to start off, obviously a great accomplishment on the season, making it to the semifinal game. Can you talk for a moment just about what you're proud of from this team this season?
Yeah, this is actually my first tournament playing in about 3-4 months, and coming into the season I was expecting to be, one of the main players on our O-line, and playing a big role there. And I think, seeing my teammates on that O-line performing as well as I did this weekend without me having to be out there, and each and every one of them stepping up was just super cool to see. Yeah, I think that's what I'm most proud of.
Awesome. Obviously, we have to talk about the game. SLO starts off, not on the best foot. Goes down 5-1 early on. You talk about, what was going through the team's mind in those moments.
Yeah, I think we always believe in ourselves and we always trust our system. They obviously came out hot and we're running hard. I think they put us in a position that we hadn't been in all weekend. So, it was a little weird to kind of be in that position and have to respond. But we were trying to find our energy, trying to find our momentum the entire game, and unfortunately, that didn't happen just as we liked it. But props to them for playing a really clean game.
Sure. You did make a significant comeback, bringing a score within one midway through the second half. You were a big part of that, of course, with a few big blocks. What were the keys to success there that got you to that point?
I think we have one of the strongest D-lines in the country and one of the spiciest offenses. We got a couple people who love to launch, and I think that can help us build momentum pretty quickly. So, couple things went our way, and got back in the game with some really good throws from some of our star offense handlers. But unfortunately, we weren't able to continue that through.
Tactical question about the defensive strategy going into this game. Seemed like UMass were throwing a lot of hucks from the flick sideline. They'd be slashing like a cutter across, usually Harwood, and then finding a lot of space deep. Was that part of the plan to try to funnel the disc towards the sideline and have them be comfortable with them shooting hucks from that position? Or is that something they were doing in spite of what you were trying to take away?
Yeah, we came in knowing they wanted to huck it. We obviously we kind of had an idea who their throwers were, and they were putting up shots. I think we kind of felt this in the Oregon game too, where our flat side defense was a little soft. Got a little bit exposed today as well, or this past game. So definitely something that they took advantage of. And
quickly, can you clarify for the folks at home, flat side defense?
Yes. Flat side defense being like if you're going downfield, a forced backhand on the right sideline. So yeah.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you. Were there any tweaks that you made over the course of the game once you saw what they were doing? It seems like you were able to limit some more of their deep ball from their O-line as the game went on. Of course, they were then still able to be pretty effective working the disc through McSweeney and some of their other small handlers.
Yeah, we played around with throwing some junk to start, a little bit of like 3-3-1 kind of stuff, mixing up between FM, force middle defenses and one-directional flick and backhand forces. So I think that kind of slowed them down a little bit, but they were still, picked it apart pretty easily sometimes. They were playing well.
Was there anything you saw from UMass that was different from things you saw from teams earlier this weekend, or were they just executing at a higher level than the other teams you had played?
I think they were definitely executing at a higher level. they definitely spaced the field very effectively and had a lot of pretty quick guys and kind of were on the same page pretty well. I think personally, playing defense, there was never really a time where I felt I could relax a bit and, you know, kind of look to help wherever. It felt like all their cutters were always threatening and, you know, always creating space for each other, which is, you know, that's just good offense, but, you know, something that they did better than other teams we faced this weekend for sure.
Looking at a bigger picture, it feels like SLO has really established himself over the past handful of seasons as one of the top programs in the division. What does it mean to you to be a part of help build this program to a point where it's getting the respect of players across the country?
Yeah, I'm super proud of what we've done. You know, it's been like kind of a weird couple seasons where my first year got kind of canceled due to COVID, and we were like kind of peaking at a really good time, and then unfortunately didn't get to do all this. And then, you know, last year fall nationals a little weird. You know, there's some 27, 28-year-olds playing on teams, whatever. But I think a lot of props goes to Cody Mills, and he's kind of installed a culture and a system that works really well, and he's a really smart dude. And our new head coach, Tim Gilligan, who inspires us every day and makes stuff happen. Yeah, but I think we're around to stay, and we'll be back here next year.
You mentioned Cody Mills, and obviously there's a coach who's had a lot of success, and he moved away from the team, but was still contributing. And you also mentioned Tim Gilligan. Can you talk about what it was like having Tim come in and take over a role that Cody had been such a big part of the team previously for?
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a shock when Cody said he was going to move to New York last year. You know, unfortunately, Frisbee isn't everyone's top priority, and they got to go work, do stuff. And, you know, he had an opportunity in New York that he had to take. And we definitely missed having him at practices this year. But we're thankful that he was still involved in captain's meetings on Zoom and, you know, scouting teams and giving us his brilliant mind and thoughts, and kind of working with Tim, who is living in SLO and is able to come to almost every practice and kind of implement stuff and, you know, bring energy and bring intensity to practices. And is also a very accomplished player himself, and, you know, knows a lot.
Seamus, as an upperclassman, it must be interesting for you to see the way the younger players on the team have come on strong this year. Is there something you want to say about what Anton Orm, Alex Nelson, Max Gade, others have done, pushing into the spotlight at such a young age?
Yeah, they're super good players. For them to come out and play in front of the big lights, it's super cool, and I'm glad they get 2-3 more years of playing Frisbee for SLO Corps. I think, you know, last year's class, super high talented. They were able to fit in. Anton and Alex played O-line last year as freshmen. Very impressive. Alex is can jump the highest out of anyone I've ever met, which is, you know, scary to play defense against in practice, but super nice to have on your team. And Anton is like super smart and super reliable cutter. And I think the one thing that has popped out to me about Max is his tenacity. There was a point today against Oregon where I looked back and he was still like a foot behind his player who's guarding, and the disc was already up, and he still manages to wrap around the guy and get a layup block. And I think that's just being able to do that as a freshman at nationals in quarters against a really good team. they're definitely all three of them going far, along with all of our other underclassmen.
Seamus, you spent a few months injured this year and had to get back up to speed. I know Calvin spent almost a year recovering from a torn ACL and had to get back up to speed. What's it been like as you keep adding players back into the mix over the course of the season for SLO?
Yeah, I definitely was pretty unsure of my role coming into this tournament. I was comfortable playing O-line. I was comfortable kind of playing D-line. I didn't know my fitness was definitely not up to what I wanted to be, and I'm still taking quite a bit of Advil. So definitely a bit strange to come in, but I think my team kind of trusted me right away, and that was super helpful. For Calvin, I think there's no one on our team who ever doubts anything he does. He's kind of brilliant in that way, and can kind of fit in. His frisbee knowledge is super high, and he can kind of fit in anywhere. And we're just lucky that he got a 5th year and he got to come out here, and he made some incredible plays.
Yeah, we feel lucky to have gotten to see him and you and the rest of SLO this season. Congratulations on an awesome run to semis. Can't wait to see what we get from SLO next year. Thanks for joining us, Seamus Robison.
Thank you very much.
Zach Riley on that takeaway. In our last semifinal. That game starts at 8 p.m. That's just about 50 minutes from now. We'll see you then, everybody.